Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Behind the Reel podcast. This is episode number 57. We've got Adrian Dean on the line here, and he is from the Scales and Tails podcast. And this is a podcast that is built around big swim bait fishing. So he's had the opportunity to have a bunch of guys from the swim bait industry on his podcast. And if you guys are interested in learning more about swim bait fishing and want to hear some of these conversations that he has had, I've listened to a few of them myself, and there's some guys on there that are willing to drop some knowledge. You can go check them out over on Spotify and just type in Scales and Tails, and it is going to be spelled just like you see in the thumbnail there. They have a really awesome logo. Scales and Tails. So if you are listening to this podcast on Spotify, which we are now on, and actually that was kind of thanks to Adrian. I asked him how I were to get my podcast on Spotify, and he recommended using a program that I've used to upload, I believe, 3 podcasts at this point. So you can go back a few episodes, and we will be dropping more of those in the coming days and weeks. So appreciate you guys over there already getting the comments fired up. We've got Danny Hartzell, which is going to be an upcoming guest here in a week, actually, the electronic fisherman. And looking forward to having him on. If you guys are interested in marine electronics, specifically Humminbird Minn Kota products, he is the guy to see. So looking forward to having him on. But guys, if you do have any specific questions that you would like to ask, put those over in the live comment section over there, and we will be sure to get to those just as quick as we can. But I'm going to go ahead and bring Adrian on, and we're going to get this thing started. What's up, man?
Oh, not a whole lot. It's kind of weird doing the live stream stuff. This is for a lot of my viewers. It's kind of a face reveal. Not necessarily that I don't post my face, but there's some people don't pay attention that much to it.
Yeah, you're like Corey Taylor, like pulling the mask off.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it's like.
So, are you? I guess this is totally unrelated and a horrible introduction, but are you a metal guy or rock guy?
Dude, honestly, I listen to everything. Like it goes on spurts. Like right now, it's a lot of like 90s rap right now because like that's what I grew up. So my dad listened to. My dad's only like 40, so that was like right around his time, and so that's what I've been hung up on for the last probably about year or so now, and that's what I listen to for now. Who knows? Probably change next week. I don't know.
Heck yeah. If that's not a topic on the Scales and Tails podcast, I think we need to like add that, as a bullet point there. Like, okay, so what music are you listening to while you're throwing these big swim baits? So
yeah, exactly. And
I could hear some like death metal, like
yeah,
big old bait flying.
Yeah, dude, that's exactly like a lot of these guys are like the grunge skater types, so they listen to that heavy metal, they listen to that 90s rap, and it's like, wow, this is perfect. This is my niche right here.
Shout out to Marshall, the Homeless Fisherman. He says Wu-Tang for life.
Yeah, we listen to some Wu-Tang. We send each other some videos listening to it every once in a while.
Heck yeah, I'm down for that. Sorry, that was a horrible way to start this thing, but it was just like one of those things where it just pops into your head, and you're just like, okay, I gotta find out.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe how you got the podcast started, when that all went down, and maybe just how you got to where you're at now with it.
Yeah, so my name is Adrian Dean. For anybody who doesn't know, turned 21 a couple months ago, so a little wet behind the ears still for anybody who thinks that's pretty young. I started Scales and Tails January, February, around there. Okay. And this was actually my second podcast. I had a first podcast for almost about a year, and that was completely geared, totally different thing. It was very kind of news style podcast towards Generation Z, and that podcast did really well. And at that point in time, I had actually taken a break from fishing for probably about a year and a half, 2 years. And then I just got bit by the fishing bug again halfway through winter, and I'm like, I like doing these podcasts and I want to get into fishing, but it's -10 out right now and there's 1.5 foot ice on the water. How am I going to do that? So I was like, I'm just going to start a podcast, and I brainstormed Scales and Tails pretty quick because originally it was going to be a conventional, just an all around fishing show. Like I have buddies all across the states. I have guys who saltwater fish, fly fish, do everything, bow fish, all sorts of stuff. And so that's what it started out as. Like the first 2 or 3 episodes weren't really geared towards that swim bait niche group. And then I don't know really what happened. I just kind of realized, hey, like swim baits are badass. And there's so many people. There's 35,000 people in Swimbait universe, which is the Facebook, like the big Facebook forum for anybody who doesn't know. And there's 16,000 on Swimbait Nation. Like I bet you I could find some cool guys to talk to in these groups. And 35, 36 episodes later, here we are, still have a huge list of guys trying to talk to.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot more people that are going to be willing to come on as you grow this thing. And I know you've had some bait makers and some other people that are selling products in the industry. Have you had Marshall on?
Yeah. Marshall, I think was episode 12, maybe, or he might have even been earlier than that, like episode 8. Yeah. And actually Marshall's is still the most played. He just
so is mine. Marshall's
really?
He's the most viewed podcast of mine as well. Marshall, you're a rock star, dude. And I think people can really relate to him. I think that you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said that the swim bait guys are kind of the same guys that we used to skate with at the park, those are the same guys, and it's awesome. It's awesome seeing all different, types of people coming into swim baiting, but that is a very large percentage of the swim bait community I have noticed, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I didn't really even notice that until Mike Gilbert from Working Class Zero. He either is or was a writer for Thrasher magazine. Yeah. And after I found that out and I saw his style, it's I got big into swim baits, and I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody's a carbon copy of each other. Like everybody has their slight differences. Like I didn't grow up skating. I grew up more like snowboarding and that sort of stuff because I don't think I could skateboard, but it's all like, dude, it's just everybody ends up in the same place somehow. And it's so weird.
Yeah. Heck yeah. So shout out to Marshall. I want to say he is either the highest viewed or the second highest viewed. But for a while he was neck and neck there with another episode of mine that had quite a bit of marketing funding behind it. So in my opinion, he was the most viewed because it was all natural. Dude, people just want to know more about him. And people want to know more about swim bait fishing for sure. Mm-hmm, that's kind of what brought you here. I've had a request to bring more swim bait fishing onto the show, and that's kind of what made me want to reach out to you. I figured what would be better than talking to the guy who gets to talk to all these different people.
Yeah, for sure. I'm so excited. I get to meet Marshall Friday morning, Friday night, and then him and his Swimbait dad Kyle from Throwback Swimbaits. We're doing a live stream Friday night before the viewing of their movie premiere. So that'll be super sick.
Nice. Heck yeah. Definitely check that out. And is that going to be over there on YouTube?
I think I'm just gonna stick to Swimbait Universe on Facebook for now, and it just depends. That's what I'm really banking on, but I don't know how great the Wi-Fi is gonna be at this campground in the middle of the foothills of Virginia out there by the bay. So worst case scenario, it'll just be an audio clip that'll go up probably the next Monday. But fingers crossed for the Facebook Live.
Yeah. Okay. Well, make sure you guys check that out. Is that going to be on the Scales and Tails page or?
I'm gonna try to do that for sure. If not, I'll have somebody share it to the Scales and Tails page. But I don't know. It's kind of a play it by ear, see how good it's actually going and how easy it is.
Yeah. And if you guys are watching, you will see the Scales and Tails podcast over their page over there on Spotify. So if you're looking for something to listen to while you're on your way to work or you're at the gym or whatever it might be when you're doing chores around the house, that's when I tend to listen to them on like washing the dishes. That's pretty hardcore, I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so check them out over there, Scales in Tails. And, there's I keep almost saying it wrong. So if I do say it wrong, it's because there is a like an exotic pet store around here called Tails and Scales.
Yeah, dude, they're that was like the big thing. So like I wanted it to be for anybody who's not seeing it. Everybody always thinks it's TAILS, like a
Yeah.
cat tail or a fish's tail, but I'm like, no, like I want people to tell stories. I'm like, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
use a play on word TALES. Like they're gonna come on and tell their fish tales and scales, obviously being fishing related. So that's what I went with.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. And people do, once they get to start talking fishing, it's hard to get them to shut up.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, I've had some guys on and like the recording will only be 2 hours, but I continue to talk to them for like 5 or 6 hours. Like that happens so crazy. Like they'll be in California and they're like, oh yeah, man, it's 11 o'clock. I'm like, yeah, dude, it's 3 o'clock here. Like I'm ready to go to bed. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that. My schedule's pretty busy, so I'm bouncing all over the place. We just got done with my son's football practice, so um, I do the same thing though. From time to time, we'll continue a conversation a little longer than I should.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We got Richie over here, Swimbait slinger. He might have been my first swimbait related guest on the show. Richie Lockery out of Missouri. For any of you guys that don't know him, go check out that episode. I want to say he was one of the very first. I bet you he was. I'm curious now to see, but yeah, we've only done this is 57, and I've been doing this for like, man, a year and a half, like almost 2 years. So I haven't been very consistent. What are you doing every week, or how are you planning that out?
So Mondays, every single Monday, it is an upload, and that's usually just kind of geared towards the quote unquote normal episodes. They're all pretty normal, and then bi-weekly Thursdays. So this Thursday, on the Thursdays, I do a little segment series called Bass and Buzz, where it's just more or less just me and whoever I have on, just having a couple beers or just whatever, kind of getting a little loose and just having a conversation. It's pretty much the same exact thing, but I advertise it as Bass and Buzz because I think it kind of draws attention to it, and people always enjoy what my loose lips have to say later towards the episode.
I listened to one of those the other day, and I like to have a beer every now and then while I'm doing the show. Yeah, Richie was episode number 23, and also I was looking here, Mr. Marshall Arnwine he is upwards of 500 plus views. So that's pretty good for our podcast here.
Yeah, dude, for sure. I think his is right around like that. I mean, probably pretty close to same with yours, like that 530, 520 mark. But currently I have, I think it's episode 30, which is the roundtable with Mr. Eric, who's the head guy over there at Leviathan Rods, Jason Carroll, and then Alec Weaker. I did a roundtable, actually my first roundtable with those guys, and everybody loves that episode. It's been getting eaten up for the last couple of weeks, and those numbers have been growing fast on that one for sure.
What is it that people like to see, do you think? Do you think it's the people that are already familiar with that person that are just going to watch that person? Or do you think there are specific topics that people are really enjoying? Like what are people really liking that you're finding out?
I think it's honestly guys who carry some like very intellectual stigma on Facebook. Like it's the type of guys you see on there, and they have 17 paragraphs in a comment section talking about what they do different or why they suggest this bait over this bait or this technique over this technique. And I think it's very intriguing because you can only fit so much stuff on a Facebook comment, whereas they're like, oh, he was on Scales and Tails and it's a 2.5 hour podcast. Like this guy's got to touch on something that I'm intrigued with, whether that be the style or the combos he's using, the line, just anything, the fishing stories. It's crazy. And then especially when you have bigger guys on like Eric who have a social media presence, I think, but not necessarily like out there in the open. Like he's not doing live streams. He's not posting a bunch of videos and stuff. He's posting pictures every once in a while. I think that's kind of what people kind of look for to kind of know the person on a personal level. Like, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but I mean, you just said you've had 500 people watch the Marshall episode. Like, that's 500 people who have listened to you talk for an hour and a half. And like, they have an idea who you are, but you can have no idea who they are. It could have literally just been somebody that saw it on their recommended feed and they watched that whole episode and they kind of have an idea the type of person you are and what your style of fishing is like and stuff. And you as the poster, you put it out there for the audience, and it's crazy how engaged the audience can be with you and you have no idea about it.
Yeah, and I will say my thoughts on that. I have kind of a personal experience with one of our recent guests, and that was SB Fishing TV, Matt Streichel. Yeah. And I've been watching this guy for years. I mean, every time he posts a video, I watch it. And if I haven't seen him post for a while, he'll go on, a little break or whatever from YouTube, and I'll go, search him up so I can watch his videos. And I mean, it's somebody that I've really stayed, watching all of his content. And I reached out to him and had him on the show, and I thought I was going to be nervous because I'm a fan, and it was just like, I knew the guy. Like I was not nervous at all. And I was like, well, this is really awkward because I thought I was going to be nervous, but I feel like we've met before, because you really do like kind of feel like you're engaging with them on a personal level, even though you've never met. Yeah, dude. So I can count on a couple fingers how many of these guys I've actually met in person that I've had on the show. And I can count on 4 hands how many of these guys I messaged, and then literally the next day we're recording. And then, like I said, we're talking for 5 hours after. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, I've never met this person before, but like we've passed comments back and forth over the last 3 years. And I talked to him for a solid day over Facebook Messenger, and boom, now I'm talking to him. Like you just said, like I've known him forever. Like we've been best friends since the 4th grade. It's crazy. Yeah, it's really cool. And I guess I didn't really consider the fact that maybe people felt like they were meeting me and they knew me on a personal level until you just said that. Yeah. But I know exactly what that feels like after having that conversation with him. Yeah, dude. So like, I mean, you're 50, what episode is this? 57. 57. So I mean, or maybe 56. I might have been, I sent you the wrong link earlier because I'm not as organized as I should be. And I'm not used to actually scheduling these out like a week or 2 in advance. So this may be episode 50. No, it is. It's 57. We're right. Yeah. Sorry. So yeah. So no, you're fine. So yeah, like I said, like these people have been listening to 56 episodes, and they know dang near everything about you, not necessarily down to a personal level, but they know how you talk. They know your attitude and stuff. And then I've met some people and they're like, oh, I'm a big fan of the show. And it's like, oh, cool. I don't necessarily know who you are exactly. Like, you know who I am. Yeah. Like I don't have a voice with the face or anything. Like, and that's, I mean, here at the gathering Saturday, it's probably going to be weird to see all these people come up and talk to me, and it'll probably be weird that they see my face, but it's going to be weird for me to meet them and have no idea like how much they listen to the show or anything like that. It's super cool, but it's kind of weird to think about at the same time. Yeah, for sure. Let's see here. What do we got? So for those of you guys that maybe are being introduced to the Behind the Reel podcast here, if you're here for the big bait stuff, I've got some guys that have been on, including Richie. I've had Brennan Banks on. I've had Peyton Stumpf on. I've had Marshall Arnwine on, the Homeless Fisherman. Peyton Stumpf is Triple P Customs. He paints a lot of the KGB stuff. Brennan Banks is just an Ozark hammer. Stick. He is a stick. who also is making a full-time living in the fishing industry. So like that's a really awesome kind of connection that I had with him. And then one of my favorite swimbait companies of all time, Legal Dope Swimbaits. We've had Edwin on and his family on actually a couple times. So if you guys are interested in some big bait stuff, make sure you go check out those past episodes. And for those of you that are going to the gathering and are gonna maybe meet Mr. Matthew Streichel for the first time, he's been on pretty recently as well. So you guys can go check those out. One more plug. I meant to mention this at the beginning of the video. We've got some swag, we're calling it. I think that would be safe to call it swag for all the swimbait guys out there. We've got some apparel. We've got hats and we've got t-shirts, and they've been selling. You guys are buying that stuff, so that's cool. I wear it, which is kind of lame, but it's really cool when you guys wear it. I have yet to see, though. I'm not calling you guys out. I'm really not, but I've yet to see anybody wearing the BTR swag with the fish in the picture. So I'm just saying,
dude, I've sold quite a bit of shirts and stuff, and I just the other day, my buddy finally sent me a picture of him with the Scales and Tails shirt, and I'm like, cool, you're the first one, dude. Like, I mean, I don't care. Like, if people are gonna buy it and wear it.
Somebody was wearing it to their like gender reveal party or their something like that.
Yeah, dude. It was either the first or the second guy who bought one, and like I don't really know him. He must have liked the podcast and heard it like on Universe or something and added me as a friend. And like a couple weeks later, I was scrolling through Facebook, and I'm scrolling and I see this like confetti cannon, or not confetti, like the powder cannon go off. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Kept scrolling, and like for some reason something just clicked in my head. I'm like, what the heck? I scroll back up and he's wearing one of my t-shirts, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, I didn't comment or anything on it, but I was like, that's cool. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's weird how I stumbled upon it. And I was like, hey, if he wants to wear for his gender reveal party, go for it. Like, I'm not going to stop him.
That is cool, man. That's definitely a compliment, and it, to me, it kind of solidifies the fact that what we're doing is worthwhile, I guess.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Yeah,
for somebody to really care that much, enough about it to, buy probably an overpriced t-shirt, like.
Yeah, it's always a very humbling thing when guys send the podcast money for, even like I mainly do stickers. That's what I advertise mostly. Yeah. And when a guy buys like $20 worth of stickers, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's so sick. But like he didn't need to do that. And like, it's just the fact, I think that people enjoy the show so much and they want to support it. I'm like, hey, yeah, that's badass. I must be doing something right a little bit at least.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something I need to do is stickers. I'm not saying that you've got low quality t-shirts. I will say that you got to charge a little bit more than you would think in order to like not lose money on the things. The t-shirts that we got are pretty sweet. They're pretty high quality t-shirts, and I was very surprised. I guess if you're paying $25 or whatever they are, you would expect to get a nice one, but it is a nice one.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's what I try to make my stuff as nice as I can. And dude, I'll be honest, I make like $2 or $3 a shirt. Yeah. Like I don't make much. And it's like, if somebody wants to wear my stuff when they go out fishing, cool. Like that makes me the happiest kid alive. I do not care.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's awesome. And the day that I run into somebody at the lake, the day that I run into a stranger at the lake that's wearing my stuff, I'm going to freak out.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, guys at work wanted to buy a hat, and I'm like, man, that's really cool, and just, again, just kind of for me, I run a kayak fishing club, and I do a lot of stuff on my free time that, doesn't have a lot of reward other than, just seeing people get to enjoy it. There's no financial reward when it comes to running a kayak fishing club. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, right.
you're looking to make money, that's the last thing you should do. But yeah, anyway, so this is kind of a cool deal. You know, people are always looking for that information. What's one of your favorite episodes? And then maybe like what is something that you were able to take away from an episode as far as on the water, you know, that you maybe never really considered and you were able to work into your arsenal or into your style?
Oh man, dude. I've had a lot of crazy guys on, a lot of guys who know what they're talking about. Probably one that's the most jam-packed full of information is Alec Weaker, which I think is episode 9, maybe 11. And he, for anybody who doesn't know, that guy is a hook guru. Like he can come on a podcast and he'll talk 6 hours about why you should be fishing ST36s on this bait with this line rather than ST56s with this setup. And he talked about a lot of kind of rod and line tech or pairing along with hooks, how to fight fish, like what kind of hooks affect certain baits. Like I think he mentioned how to make TK suspend. He talks about reading the water a lot. He's a very big muskie fisherman. He catches a lot of muskie on swim baits, and he talks about kind of how he picks apart some of the bodies of water for that. He briefly touches on fishing for river smallmouth with swim baits, which is something that I took away. I took a lot of information from that, and I've been able to apply it to my local river. And I think Alex is probably, if you wanna jam pack yourself with a lot of information in a 2-hour span, that's the episode to listen to. Not taken away from anybody else, but yeah. I mean, it was just boom, 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 all over the place, just dropping knowledge everywhere. It was crazy.
Heck yeah. So what is for people that aren't familiar, what is your kind of style? So you mentioned fishing river systems and
yeah, so I'm actually 2 hours south of where I grew up and kind of where I learned to not only swim bait fish, but bass fish in general. And up there, it's a lot of lakes. I lived on right on Lake Michigan, and all my lakes connected via pierhead riprap to Lake Michigan. So I grew up doing a lot of drop shotting, fishing tiny tubes and stuff. And then when I moved out of my parents' house and moved down here, it was kind of a shock as far as this is a complete 180 of the style of fishing I'm used to. Down here, it's a lot of river fishing because a lot of the lakes are either irrigation lakes that don't hold fish, or they're private lakes because there's a bunch of wealthy people with their really big lake houses and stuff on there that they're up for once a year at. And so it was definitely a 180. I had to learn how to read the rivers and read current. And like pressure is a huge thing for river fishing from what I found out. Moon phases have been another thing that I've kind of started to pay attention to, and I've been able to kind of make my success rate a little bit more than probably what it would have been if I didn't take that sort of stuff into account.
Moon phases specifically, just because that interests me. What, in a nutshell, what are you looking for?
So full moon, like 100% full moon, I usually don't go out, but 3 to 4 days before the full moon. So right as it's like that 92, 94%, that's when I've personally had the biggest fish eat, not necessarily the most, but that's when I've seen the most big fish eat, follow my baits, that sort of thing. I think the last time I went out and did super good and caught a few big fish, the moon phase was like at 94. And I think it was right at that 3-day mark before the full moon. And I caught probably close to a 5-pounder and then another high 4. And for this size of river that's in my backyard, dude, like I can literally cast across it. Like it's not very big at all. And to pull out 2 fish that big and then a decent 25-inch pike all in a matter of 45 minutes to an hour on a glide bait, I was like, yeah, this has to be something. Cause like you can go out anytime and catch a fish or 2, but I have yet to catch 2 fish that big, let alone 2 fish that big in the same 2-hour trip.
Nice. Okay. And as far as let's say as far as baits go, what is, I know you can't just have one bait, but like what's the bait that you're really fishing a lot of right now that you have a lot of confidence in?
Any 6-inch ish glide bait. So like the S Waver 168, dude, that's been my bread and butter just because I'm fishing in a lot of like super rip rappy / like log jammy stuff. And if I snag one up, not to sound like a snob, but that's only 18-20 bucks. Like that's a lot better than losing a big old bait like that, or any other number of glide bait where it's like, oh, there goes $150. And those smallmouth eat the 168 like it's nothing. It looks like a big bait, and it's a decent sized bait, especially for a smallmouth. But I mean, I've had pound smallmouth come up and smack that thing and get hooked, and I'm like, I don't know what it is. They just lose their mind for a glide bait, especially in that like 6-inch range. It's what works, I think.
Okay, so a lot of glide bait fishing where you're at. Do you get into like the wakes and cranks and all the other stuff too?
So it's funny. I'm good friends with Kyle from Throwback, and Kyle and Marshall both. And I tell them, I'm like, I've been swimbait fishing for right around 5.5, 6 years now. And I can count on one hand how many wake bait fish I've caught. Like, I don't know. I didn't do it much at home, and transitioning down here, I just don't have any confidence in it. Like I'll fish a glide just because I've caught hundreds of fish on it, and that's just what I know will work. The one thing I really want to try down here, probably not necessarily now because the season's winding down and it's getting pretty cold, but I want to try the 5-inch and the baby bull shad swimmers, because I think those would absolutely kill it around here, around log jams and stuff when I'm floating the river, or even fishing the spillway. I think that I could catch a lot of fish, just reaction striking, just burning it out of current and stuff. I think they'd kill it for sure.
Okay, heck yeah. What do all your friends and family think of you doing the podcast? Do you ever get any crap for it or anything?
So I'm the type of person, which I'm sure some other people can relate. I'll do something, I'll jump into it head first, and I'll do it for, half a year, and then I'll kind of get out of it. But fishing and more or less swimbait fishing is something that I jumped into when I was super young in high school. I was like a sophomore, and I remember telling my friends and family and stuff like, oh, I just dropped $200 on this bait that the guy hasn't even made yet, but I'll end up getting. And they're like, $200. And then like, oh yeah, it's an 11-inch bait and it looks like a trout. And they're, at first it was a lot of, they're like, oh, you're crazy. And then over the years, they've accepted that that's kind of like a normal thing for me. And then when I started the podcast, a lot of people kind of, I'm sure, expected it, because all through high school, like I always told everybody, I actually had a chemistry teacher, and he had a podcast, and it was about something completely different. He was big into mountain biking, and like everybody always make fun of him and stuff. And I'd actually listen to his episodes and his podcast, and I'd come into class and I'd talk about it with him. And I'm like, a podcast sounds like so much fun. And like, I always talked about making one. And then I think once I finally did, I don't think it was a surprise to anyone, just because fishing is just something I've loved forever. And then podcasting is just something that I've always been super intrigued with, but I wasn't really sure how to go about it. And once you just kind of jump in head first, it just kind of takes over, I guess. It just forms its own path from what I've been able to tell so far.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of, now I don't know necessarily about the Swimbait community, but in the kayak fishing, like the local kayak fishing tournament scene, we'll say, you see a lot of guys come and go. And I'm sure that's the way with fishing as a whole. People get really into it, and then they kind of trade it for another hobby or whatever. What's kept you coming back to fishing? Like, what is it about fishing that keeps you coming back?
So I don't really talk about this a lot, but my grandpa, who was the youngest of 12 brothers and sisters, his oldest brother, which was my uncle, he was a very very well-known charter captain in the state of Michigan. He was one of the first charters when salmon and steelhead got introduced to the Great Lakes. And this guy, I mean, he could go out and he could catch them any day. There's documentaries on YouTube of him going out with the governor of Michigan at the time, like in the 70s and 80s, and them recording TV shows and stuff with him. And then my grandpa, when he got older, he kind of started doing his own thing, and his was geared more towards river fishing and big lake charter boating and stuff. And it's something I grew up around fishing my whole life. And I was always kind of the odd duck because it wasn't trout fishing like everybody else. It was bass fishing. And I got razzed on it a lot. Like my grandpa, he'd always, why would you want to go catch those bass? Like, you're not going to eat them. And I don't know. It was just something that I enjoyed so much. And once I kind of experienced like my first fishing expo, it was kind of like, holy crap, like there's a lot of like-minded people. And then I figured out what like Bass Nation was and MLF and everything. And then I learned that, like, my junior year, I learned that there was college fishing teams and stuff. And I have a really good friend who was joining the Bass Club around that time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's so expansive, and it's continuing to grow. Like it just has me coming back because it's so crazy to see the stuff. Like, if you're not doing it and you come back a year later, you miss so much stuff in the fishing world. It's absolutely crazy. And I think it's just kind of that FOMO, the fear of missing out on anything, that just has me coming back no matter what.
Okay. All right. I like it. Heck yeah. So, one day you'll have grandchildren maybe talking about documentaries on YouTube about you, and maybe this will be one of them. So
yeah, man. Yeah.
Just say hi to your, future grandkids.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty wild. All right. I want to say what's up to Fire Jumping Jordan over here. I think I put the comment up here, but he's drinking a beer with us tonight. So I'm sipping on some water. I'm pretty lame tonight, but
yeah, same.
But Fire Jumping Jordan, he's probably a few beers in by now. Hopefully you're still listening, and if you are, I appreciate you. And I think I seen some videos he posted here recently. So shout out to Fire Jumping Jordan. J Flesh Bassin says, "What's up, fellas?" Looks like
Jason. Jason is a very well-known swimbait guy. He's a stand-up dude. I've talked to him a lot, and he's a really big supporter of my show. He loves my show, and I really need to get him on because that dude is a big bass freak. He could write books, I bet, with all the knowledge he knows. He's a very, very well-known big bass hunter in the swimbait world for sure.
Heck yeah. I think we talked about having him on the podcast as well, with Behind the Reel as well. I think he was the one who actually recommended that I get more swimbait content on the show. I believe that was him.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Jason, like I said, he's a big fish freak. I mean, anybody he can hear talk about fishing, especially, not necessarily big bait fishing, but big bait fishing, he's all about that for sure.
Heck yeah, and I think he even fishes out of a kayak from time to time.
Yeah, he does. I've seen, I want to say there's a picture of him with like a good size 8 in his kayak, and I mean, like he just seems like he just is a fishy guy from what I've been able to tell.
Yeah, there's a lot of those guys out there. They just seem to call them in. I'm not one of those guys. I have to really struggle, to catch fish. But every now and then, I'll have one that'll accidentally get snagged on my bait, and that works out. We got Trevor K, which was...
Yeah, Trevor was actually my first guest on the show. My first ever episode, Trevor was on there. We've been pretty good friends. And so
nice.
I hit him up. I'm like, hey, dude, like, this probably sounds really weird, but I have this podcast idea. You want to come on there and talk? And he's like, yeah, for sure, man. So he was my first episode. And honestly, his is like, I think top 5 most played still. And that's been, like I said, 30, 35, 36 episodes, which is kind of crazy.
Nice. Trevor was number 6 for me.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Isn't this weird? Like,
yeah, dude. Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
This is a little bit odd. So Trevor fishes our local club.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so we're
That
in the
makes sense.
same
Yeah.
neck of the woods, and he won one of our events last year, the first event of the season, and that one aired on April 13th of 2021. He came on the podcast, and so yeah, so he is obviously known as a big swim bait guy, and um, he definitely can compete in these kayak fishing tournaments, and apparently he's a hell of a softball player as well.
Yeah, world champ last I knew, or I think it's world champ, whatever that big tournament he was. I knew he took a break from fishing for a little while about that time.
Yeah, yeah. So shout out to Trevor K. Let's see here. He says, okay, fire jumping Jordan. Yeah, says he needs a link to buy a BTR hat and one of Adrian's t-shirts. I believe I've got a link in the description of this video for the behind the reel merch. Where can they get your merch at, Adrian?
If you go on Google and type in SNTpod.com, it'll be the first thing to pop up. I think it's like capital SNT, but I don't think cap locks matters on websites. I don't know.
What is it again? SNT?
SNTpod.com.
Okay.
That's just always what I type into to Facebook, and it always pops up. So I'm like, that must work.
Okay, so for those of you guys that are watching, we're going to show you what to look for, and this is it right here.
Oh man, it looks weird on a computer screen.
Oh yeah, probably made to be on the mobile.
No, yeah, that's just kind of what I geared it towards, because I'm like, most people will probably do it on that.
You got some really cool stickers there. You got the throwback on it. These are stickers, right?
Yeah, yep. Those are the previous stickers. Yep.
Heck yeah! And then you got the Scales and Tails logo there on that one. You got the throwback.
Yeah.
Spoils of swim baiting. Let's see that one. That one looks cool.
So that was actually the one the guy was wearing for the gender reveal. He was wearing the black one, and I don't know what it was that caught my eye, but I'm like, hey, wait a minute, that's my logo, and I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Got my size in stock. I like it.
Oh yeah.
Heck yeah. So if you guys want to check that out, he's got some hoodies too. Hoodie season is coming up. And
that's a design I specifically did with Wayne over at Universe for the Gathering.
Nice. That is really cool. Heck yeah. Yeah, go check that out, guys. That is over there. SNT, like Scales in Tails podcast.com.
Yeah.
He's got some cool options for you. Heck yeah. I like that. Okay. Trevor K says, I may be late, but Adrian talked about the gathering and his involvement this year, and will he fish Showdown? Let's hear it.
So yeah, for anybody who's wanting to or gonna attend the gathering, the Swimbait Universe gathering at Rockahack Campground over there in Virginia, right on Lake Chickahominy. I'll have a booth there with some stickers and prototype item I've been working on for the past couple of weeks, and got some stickers there. I'll actually have all my podcasting stuff so we can record an episode for anybody who's interested. So that'll be pretty cool. Like I touched on Friday, Marshall, Kyle, and I will be doing that live stream, and then I'll do something Saturday morning with all the crazy guys who've been waiting in line for 24 hours at their picket of bait before the doors open up. And then the Showdown. I really want to try to make that. I don't know if you're familiar with the Showdown, but that's over on 10 Killer, and it's kind of the Western, kind of swim bait meetup. And if I have any PTO left, and if I have any money left, I definitely want to come out there. Maybe not even to fish, but just to come out there and meet a lot of those guys. I mean, there's so many guys out west who swim bait fish and who do it really effectively. I'd like to go out there and meet some guys for sure.
Heck yeah! Well, I'd imagine Trevor's going to be there at that one.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Everybody.
That's not too far. When is that one? Did you say?
I think it's October 8th or the 15th. It's one of those weekends. I want to say the 15th. I'm like 90% sure it's the 15th. If I had to recall from memory, I think it's the 15th.
Okay, cool. Well, if it's the 8th, I won't be able to make it because we are running a Kansas Bass Nation Kayak Series state championship that day. But yeah, that would be cool. And I do plan on going down to the gathering they're doing in Texas in the spring. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I'm going to go to that one too pretty bad. I probably will. It'll probably be last minute if I had to guess, but I'll definitely probably make it if I had to take an educated guess on it.
Heck yeah. All right, let's see here. Have you gotten into like any tournament stuff? Do you get into like any of the Swimbait online tournament style events or anything like that?
If I'm being honest, I probably would if I didn't have the podcast, but more or less I record the shows on my free days, which the free days are when my girlfriend isn't coming up to my apartment or when I'm going down to her house. So I'd like to, for sure, probably in the spring when it's pre-spawn and our fish kind of put on their feed sack and they're getting a little bit bigger. I probably will have a chance at it, but it's also like around here I'm fishing for smallmouth, and not saying catching like 3-5 pound smallmouth is impossible during a week, but it's definitely a little bit harder than catching 2 or 3 6-pound smallmouth down south in a week's time for sure.
Okay. And let's see, as far as like the cover and structure stuff, are you mainly fishing that river by you? Do you ever get out, like, are you fishing from a boat at all or a kayak? Are you always fishing from the bank? Like, what does that look like?
I'm honestly waiting. I throw on a pair of swim trunks, and the first time I waded this spot, like when I first moved in here, there's a kind of a little casting dock, and I climbed in right there and I crawled all the way around the river, all the way around the spillway, and found a little sandbar, and I fished from there and I caught some fish. And then I was like, I don't really want to walk back. That water was kind of cold. And I found a trail through the fence, like that leads right up to my apartment complex parking lot. And so now literally it takes me right now from right here, I could walk 2 minutes. I'd be down to the river through the little trail I found. And that's 2 minutes casting, probably catch fish in a matter of 10 minutes after I'm down there. It's this spot was not intentional, like for me to move into. Like I knew the river was here, but I did not realize that the river was literally this close. And I didn't realize the river had this many aggressive smallmouth in it. Like it was a blessing in disguise. I can't lie.
Heck yeah. And are you like 100% swim bait, no more conventional? Like, what does that look like?
I'd probably say 98% swim baits. Like I'll go down there and like, if it's like a Wednesday night and I had a long day at work and I'm just like, you know what? Like, I don't want to be cooped up in the house. Like I'm just going to go down and catch some fish. I'll bring down my, my rod and I'll fish a Nico rig, or I'll fish like a little, huddle crawler, like one of those little crawling baits, and I'll catch some fish. And it's just like, okay, cool. Like I caught some fish, but there's some kind of satisfaction with going down there and catching smallmouth on a 6-inch glide bait. Like it's so much fun. It's they hit like a ton of bricks. They dig super hard when they have that big bait in their mouth. And it's just a little bit more satisfying to me. Like I know I can go down there and catch a few fish on a 4-inch worm, but going down there with a 6-inch glide bait or a bigger bait, it's I have a sense of accomplishment, and it's just so much fun. Like I wouldn't trade it for the world, honestly. But if they're not eating a swim bait, I have no problem with walking back up here and grabbing my jerk bait rod or my worm rod. Like I don't care. If I'm catching fish, it doesn't matter to me. But if I had a preference, it would definitely be glide bait, swim bait fishing for them for sure.
Okay. Yeah. So when I asked you kind of what brought you, or keeps you coming back to fishing, part of it for me, I think, is just like figuring it out and having to always, figure it out. And the fact that we never can figure it all out, it's just like a constant puzzle on, in a way. Right. And we kind of punish ourselves in a way when it comes to, going out in bad conditions or whatever, but swim bait fishing is even more so. Like, it can be more taxing on you
Yeah,
because
for sure.
there's times where you go out there and you're not getting bait. There's definitely times where swim baits are going to be the absolute thing to throw. But yeah, it takes a special person to go out there and dedicate a majority or all of their time to big swim baits.
Yeah, and it's funny that that you touched on that's what keeps you and other people coming back, because when I actually got out of fishing a year and a half, 2 years ago, it was because I got so complacent, and because it was like clockwork. I could go to my spot up at home right on Lake Michigan. I could fire out a 10.5 inch glide bait, and I could catch 4 fish in a matter of an hour. And once it doesn't take any skill, or it doesn't take any previous knowledge, or kind of that factor, like you're tricking the fish because you found something out, and more of, oh, I know that's where these fish are, I know that they're going to eat this bait, and you just get complacent with it. That's what I lost interest in. Like, I could go down there, and like I said, I could catch 4 or 5 fish every night, every day of the week, twice on Sundays. And that's like, I've touched on it before, and that's what made me lose interest, because it wasn't as thrilling. It wasn't, not going to say it wasn't a challenge, because I mean, you have to hook that fish, but you also have to land that fish. But it just felt like a cheat code. It wasn't as satisfying because I wasn't picking apart the water. I wasn't having to watch the conditions. It was clockwork. I could go down there and catch fish whenever I wanted, and it was just unsatisfying to me. And I'm like, is this like, do I really like doing this, or do I just come because I know I can catch a fish? And then I picked up photography for a while, for 2 years, and then I got back into it, and I haven't felt that, because like this spot here is always changing, and I'm never complacent, because I have to look at the conditions. I have to see what the water level is. I have to see what the pressure is, what the moon phase is. And it's just, it's super humbling to have to find out why these fish, or where these fish, or how these fish are going to be eating for me. And it's probably honestly what keeps me coming back 100%.
Yeah, heck yeah. What one other thing that guys want to know that they've asked on some of our guests, like, what do you do for a living? I'm assuming that you don't make a full-time living running the podcast.
No, unfortunately not. So right now I'm actually my apartment complex maintenance guy.
Nice.
So it's a super sick gig. I'm not always busy. I don't have a lot of paperwork to fill out. It's not like an office job where I have steady work. So I do have a lot of, not necessarily a lot, but I do have downtime throughout my day. And that's, I mean, more or less all my free time. If I'm not with my girlfriend, or I'm at work, a lot of my free time goes to the podcast. And that's why I think I've been able to grow at a decent speed. And I'm able to kind of line up shows. Like I'll have 3 or 4 shows scheduled throughout a week. And like the monthly stickers and stuff, like I have a good amount of time to kind of put towards the podcast. And I think it's helped so much. And I'm sure I could probably use some of that free time to fish, but it's like right now the podcast is so much fun for me that I enjoy it just as much as fishing. Like it's so much fun. And people probably don't believe me, but I don't know, man. It's just, it's badass getting to talk to anybody I want to about fishing. You just can't beat it.
Yeah. And are you doing all the design work for your art?
Yeah. So I'm brainstorming it. I'm drawing it all up. I'm picking the color palettes and stuff. And then I send over my drawing and the reference images to my artist dude. And he puts it on, he makes a digital copy and sends it over to me. And then I send it over to my printer, and boom, we have a sticker made.
Nice. Okay.
And that's kind of the cool thing is I have a book just full of sticker designs, like super sick sticker designs. And it's just, it's painful because I have to wait 30 days to post the next one. And like if I could, boom, I'd have 30 up on my site tomorrow. But it's like, I know it's like what I'm doing right now is working people enjoy the monthly sticker drop. And I don't want to burn myself out and have to think of something every single day. If I can give myself some leeway for 2 or 3 months that just gives me more time to put back towards the show, whether that be recording or editing stuff or posting fishing reels, fishing like Instagram reels on Instagram and helping grow on the page. Like I can't complain at all.
So where do you post your podcasts at? Like where are all the places that people can go to see them?
Oh geez. Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcast, Sprecher, I think is what it's called. And then Google Podcasts. And I think that's all of them. I think there's 5 I think there's 5 and I think that's all of them.
So on Instagram, you're just posting like little tidbits.
Dude, honestly, on Instagram, the only posting I do relative to the episode is usually just on my stories. Like if somebody's listening to it and they screenshot it and they post it on their story, I'll repost it. The stories do way better than normal posts because people just sit on their phone and tap through the stories. And I try to make my stuff super engaging, like with polls or with questions and stuff. So people kind of slow down when they see my stuff. And then when somebody posts something and they add like a little snippet of information, like, they just kind of tease the episode a little bit, that I enjoy that. Honestly, it's been like 100% organic. I don't really post about the show unless it's a new episode or like I make a funny meme about listening to the show. And then usually like the normal uploads are like cast to catches or bait pictures or really anything along those lines. It's like I want to do little snippets of the show, but it's like that takes a lot of time from other stuff I'm trying to do currently, which I'll probably get to sometime, but not quite yet. Maybe after the gathering. I've put a lot of time towards getting ready for the gathering and a lot of money. And then after that, I have a lot of big ideas I need to put in place. And that's probably something I'm going to do fairly soon if I had to guess, for sure.
Nice. Okay. Where do you see the podcast going? Like, what is the long-term goal with Scales and Tails?
Oh, dude, I don't even know. Like, I've only been doing it for like 8 months now, and it's scary how fast it's grown. Not necessarily because like I'm like talking to all these people, but more or less because it's outgrowing like what I can like humanly do right now. And I'm the type of person that if somebody enjoys it, like I just want to keep that experience, like just keep it growing for somebody. And I think there's definitely going to be a point in time where I become burnt out with it, but I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. And that's like why I talked about like all my free time goes to the show, because I think if I stop, it's going to kind of lull, and it's not necessarily that people aren't going to listen, but people are going to be less engaged with it. So if I can just keep pumping out good content for people and, being interactive with people and posting good stuff, that's all I can do really, for sure. And like I said, I have so many big ideas that either I'm waiting to do, or I don't have the time to necessarily plan out, or I don't have the manpower right now. Like my girlfriend helps me do a lot of stuff for the show. And it's just at some point in time, I definitely think it's going to be a full-time gig, but probably maybe 6 months down the road, but I don't think any time before that, for sure.
Okay. And what kind of views are you getting on some of those? Like you're getting, I think you said 500 views on Marshall's. What platform was that on?
So that's just that's on the full like all the platforms combined.
Okay.
But if I had to guess, it's probably like 49% of my users are on Apple Podcasts, so I'd assume probably a good chunk of that's from there. But so I average Apple and Podcasts are my two biggest for sure. But I think right now, like I average almost exactly 300 plays per episode. Nice. And I mean, some episodes are 450, and then some episodes are like that 250 mark. It's just 300 is the average plays for every single episode.
Yeah, and I think that the more people that find out about it, that's obviously going to grow. And I'm sure you've seen some growth in the short amount of time that you've been doing it. It sounds like you've been hitting it pretty hard, and your graphic design work looks top notch. Like I was expecting you to say maybe you were into that sort of thing.
No, dude, like I'm a very visual person, so like I said, a good amount of free time, and I'm very creative. I can sit back in my chair and I'm like, oh, this would be a really funny design if I did it with this bait builder, or this would be super cool because it's a play off of something else, like that Eat More glides. For anybody who doesn't know, that's based off the Chick-fil-A Eat More chicken. Like
Yeah.
I had that picked out for a bait builder or bait maker, and they're like,
Mhm.
oh, like that's I don't really know if people would get that joke. And I'm like, okay, like that's whatever. And then I brought it up to the next person. They're like, yeah, I want to do it. I'm like, perfect, let's do it. And like I said, I have a lot of really big design, like super cool ideas that I'm just waiting to get made, because if I get it made right now, I'm gonna be too tempted to post it everywhere.
Heck yeah. I need some design work. So if you're for hire, I just might have to hit you up.
Yeah, dude, for sure. We'll have
I
to we'll have to
got
talk about it.
I got scammed on Instagram for $80. I was like, I even like checked some references on this guy that he had like tagged, and I don't know what the deal was, but he had done design work for other people and I needed something very simple done. And so I like checked with these people. They're like, yeah, they're like, I got something done from him. But then one guy was like, yeah, he was okay. Like I didn't end up using his design. And I'm like, okay, well, this guy's at least a real person,
Yeah, he's
because
legit. He told you he didn't use it.
like that's a horrible reference, right? So
Yeah.
I'm like, well, at least what I need is pretty simple, so he shouldn't be able to mess. He's not going to mess that up. And then I just got burnt on it. So, anyways, yeah. So, and you make some awesome designs there. So, just thought I'd mention that.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it for sure.
But okay, well, do you have, other than the gathering, do you have anything coming up that you can talk about? It sounds like maybe there's some stuff that you can't quite reveal yet. You want to maybe drop any bombs on us before you go, or
Uh, Dude, I mean, I have this one thing I've been working on that it's coming up pretty quick. I don't have it exactly all squared away just yet, but I mean, now's a good time to do it. For Thanksgiving, I'm not actually doing a collaborative sticker. I'm doing just a one-off Thanksgiving design, and I'm gonna collaborate with a couple bait makers to have some baits to give away, and all the profit from Thanksgiving is gonna go to my local food bank, because it's just gonna be kind of the turkey drive is what I'm gonna call it. And Thanksgiving has
nice,
always meant a lot to me and my family, and I'm in a position now where I can pay all my bills, and I have money that I can sit in the bank account, and I know there's people that are less fortunate about that. And if I can take my platform and kind of donate some money to some people in need, that's what I want to do. And I've been thinking about that for a couple months, and I guess this will be the first place that's heard about it, because not many people
nice,
know about that plan just yet.
very cool. Well, thank you for making this your grand reveal.
Yeah,
I
dude, for sure.
That is something that I have noticed about, and maybe in the fishing community in general, but something about the swimbait community. We kind of get a lot of flack for, you know, being a little rough around the edges at times,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of guys that would just give you the shirt off their back.
Yeah, dude, for sure. I mean, I've been helped out by a lot of friends before, which they posted it in universe and stuff. That was a couple years ago, and there's been a good amount of people that I've helped out. Not necessarily that I published and talked about it, because that's not the type of person I am, but I definitely feel like the swimbait world is hardened and is as crazy as people make it out to sound. Like there's 35,000 good-hearted people in the Swimbait universe group that if somebody needs help, there's a large amount of people that'll go to bat for them and help them out in any way they can. And you see it quite a bit, whether that just be free baits, or they send somebody's son some baits for their birthday, or they somebody's having rough times, and they donate some of their baits to a raffle. Like there's an endless amount of give back in the swimbait world, and I think it gets overshadowed with some of the beef, or some of the other stuff that gets thrown around in the little niche group we're in. But there's a lot of good guys in the swimbait world that gets overlooked, I think, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen it, and it happens a lot more than we even know about. Like you said, there's a lot of that goes on behind the scenes. Sometimes when you scroll down the comment section on a post, you'll see, hey, send me your address,
Yep.
And they're sending dude baits or whatever they're sending. There's a lot of that goes on, and then there's a lot that never even makes it onto social media as well. So I know I've had friends. I know Edwin posted on there one time about his family when they were going through some issues over when there was a hurricane. His mom and they, I think their home was destroyed. Anyways, I think they got helped out quite a bit, and they were able to kind of rebuild. And so there's a lot of more than just, hey, here's a bait to try out, but there's their lives are literally being affected just because they like to go fishing.
Yeah, for sure.
And we have that connection with each other because we all like to go fishing. It sounds kind of funny, but
yeah,
we look
dude,
out for each other. It's like a brotherhood.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's always weird. I tried to explain it to my girlfriend a handful of times, and she says she understands, but I don't think she does. And I think kind of going to the gathering and seeing everybody there, and she's gonna be like, oh, like you're not just talking to random people on the internet, like you're talking to your friends, whether or not you've met them or not, or given them a handshake. Like you guys talk every day. They support you, you support them. I mean, I don't know. It's so weird. And unless you're in it, I don't think you can fully grasp what's going on at all. I think you have to be there, and you have to be in the group and witness this stuff to have an idea of exactly what's going on, I think, for sure.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Shout out to Gino Martinez. He is a part of the original Prison Fishers. And he's one of the people that got me into fishing from the very beginning. We kind of got into it together, and we were fishing from the bank, and we were working at the prison, and we called ourselves the Prison Fishers. And this was years ago. And so yeah, appreciate you tuning in, and hopefully we'll get out and do some fishing here before too long.
It's funny you mentioned that. I was a corrections officer for about a year and a half.
Okay.
About a year and a half ago, actually.
Nice.
And at that point in time, I didn't really fish much because I was always at work, it seemed like. But oh yeah, it was just funny you mentioned that.
Yeah, I did it for about 4 years, and I thought that's what I was going to retire doing. And while I was working at the prison, I started up a kayak fishing club, and that has led to me making a full-time living in the fishing industry. It's kind of weird how things happen, but if you invest your energy into something, I wasn't attempting to make a living out of fishing, or anything like that. I had no intentions of being a full-time angler or going pro or anything like that, but
Right.
it was just something that I was passionate about. And so I started this group, and the group led me to an opportunity outside of the prison to actually paint for a living, run an industrial, like a manufacturing side of things, a paint shop. And then I painted the building, which is Russell Marine Products. And that kind of led me to being a salesman in the marine electronics industry. So, but yeah, while I was at the prison, I started the group, and then here I am 7 years later.
Damn, man, that's quite the story.
Yeah, that's a little summary, of course, but a lot of stuff
Yeah.
happened in between there. But yeah, so working at the prison was fun. There was a lot of good times. There was a lot of bad times, I guess you could say.
Oh yeah.
But I'm really glad that I don't work there anymore.
Yeah, I agree. There was a reason I left, and growing up in a really small area and then being a corrections officer in that really small area and being a young corrections officer, it didn't mend well. There was people coming in that I knew, and I was like, yeah, they're not going to take me seriously, and can't really do my job if they don't take me seriously.
So it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was a certified juvenile delinquent, and I was actually supervising inmates that I had been locked in a cell with.
Oh man,
like that's a real thing. So, yeah, I was no stranger to the Shawnee County Department of Corrections, and I worked at a state prison. And fun fact about that is we housed all of the death row inmates in all of the high profile cases, such as BTK. Yeah, you don't want to know if you don't know, but he was a really messed up individual, serial killer back in like the 70s, and then he kind of resurfaced, or 70s or 80s, and then he kind of resurfaced back in the early to mid 2000s, and they finally caught him for stuff he'd done 30 years before. But anyways, corrections officer, that was, sorry, you bring back some memories there when you mentioned that.
No, man, that's it was a very interesting job for sure, to say the least. It was a very interesting job.
All right, so one little tidbit that you want to leave the folks with here. What is the bait that they go to this time of year? Maybe it's a glide, like you said earlier, but we got fall just around the corner. Definitely cooling down. What is the one that they need to grab? Maybe if they're new to it, they want to get into it. What are you going to go with?
I mean, like I said, you can't go wrong with an S-Waver. Fall and spring, I always associate the bite with a super reaction bite. Like if they see a bait kind of shoot past them, they're gonna come up and look at it, and if it shoots away from them, their instincts are gonna kick in. They're gonna be like, oh, like I need to chase this thing. It's running away from me, and one thing leads to another, and they eat the bait. And a jerk bait, I fish my jerk baits kind of like I fish my glide baits like I fish my jerk baits, kind of the real pause, real pause. And if you like fishing a jerk bait, pick up a smaller glide bait, whether that be the S-Waver 120, 168, or what else is there, like the sixth scent snitch, I think is what it is, or the Storm Arashis, anything. And if you kind of figure out the way that bait glides and chops, and if you can fish it like a jerk bait, I feel like you can catch a lot of fish. That's how I grew up fishing all my stuff, and that's how I still fish it, because I feel like the fish see that thing and something ticks and they just want to kill that bait, especially in that fall transition time when they're kind of putting on their feed sack and just trying to put on a lot of weight, get a lot of calories in them. I think if you present them with a bait that size, fishing it super erratic and kind of almost making it hard to turn down, they're opportunistic eaters, and they're just going to come up and eat that thing. And that's, I haven't fished a lot of places, but the places I have fished, that always seems to work all through the year. But I think fall and spring are definitely times it shines, and that's what I'd have to recommend, because that's exactly what I do, and I have fairly decent results, and I can't imagine it changes much throughout the country, if at all, I would assume.
Yeah, heck yeah. I'm gonna have to bust out the glide bait a little bit more. I am the exact opposite of you, and all of my confidence is in the wake bait.
Oh, okay.
So I've got a couple glides. I've got the draw from 6 Cents. I've got the KGB Chad should probably be at the top of that list.
The Chad you can fish just like a jerk bait. I've never had one, but during the first gathering, so 2019, my buddy gave me $100 for raffle tickets, and he actually ended up winning a KGB Chad. And before I sent it to him, because he lived in Pennsylvania, I took it out and I fished it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need one of these, and I never ended up buying one. But I think you could fish that thing exactly how I was describing just a second ago, for sure.
Heck yeah. Yeah, that one was painted by Peyton Stump over there at
Okay.
Triple P. Super nice paint job. But I'm definitely going to do that. It's hard to get away from what you know, and I know I can go out there and catch fish on the wake bait, but I need to put more time in and learn how to expand my arsenal a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Even if you're fishing like a slow sink or even a floating glide bait, and if you just rip it, I mean it's kind of a wake bait. You're moving water. It's right under the surface. I'd call it a wake bait, and I catch a lot of fish doing that. Just as soon as it hits the
Yeah.
water, just start working it, and I mean that's as close as I fish to a wake bait, and it seems to work a little bit at least.
Was it Marshall that was fishing a Huddleston like that in a recent video? Who was that? That was I don't remember who that was. No, it was Landon. That's right, on a Ben Milliken video. And
Oh yeah.
did you see that one? And he was
Yeah,
fishing the Huddleston right on the top of the.
I started that one today, actually. I just started that one today. I think during my lunch hour, I started watching it, and I haven't finished it yet, but I know what episode you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, maybe I do that. Maybe that's how I ease my way into a
Yeah,
glide
there
bait,
you go.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right, man. Well, shout out to Adrian here and the Scales and Tails podcast. Go over to sntpodcast.com. Get yourself some slaps.
Yeah, it's
Heck
kind
yeah.
of it's the swimbait slang for stickers. Everybody calls
Yeah.
them slaps, so I figured that was a good name for them.
Feel like we got to call the apparel swag now since we called the stickers slaps. I think that's only
Yeah,
fair.
exactly.
He's got some really cool designs over there. Show some support if you guys are interested in learning more about fishing big baits. This is a really good resource for you to get a bunch of knowledge in a relatively short period of time. And I've listened to you a few times at the gym and on my way to work, and it's a really convenient way to do it. However you guys are enjoying your podcast, Spotify, Apple, all the good stuff, Google, Amazon, just check him out. And do you have anything that you want to sign off with before we go ahead and call it a night?
I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. The only other thing is Instagram, Scales and Tails _podcast, and then Facebook. I think it's just Scales and Tails. That's pretty much. I mean, other than the podcast, that's everything. Is Facebook and Instagram. That's pretty much everywhere you can find me. I'd say. Oh, YouTube. I think YouTube. It's just Scales and Tails, because at some point in time I'll do videos, but for now it's just kind of there, just a channel.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. It's cool to kind of speak with somebody who does something similar. You got definitely your own twist on it, and I like to see that you're investing so much of your time and energy into it, and it really is shown. So keep up the good work, man, and maybe we'll run into you down on Lake Fork in the spring.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me on. Like I said, it was first live one, let alone first video. Like I said, kind of taking the mask off me, little face reveal for anybody who doesn't know what I look like. But I appreciate you having me on. It was a lot of fun. I like the live setup, and I like seeing all the questions and people talking on the live chat feed. That's super cool. And I think I definitely need to learn how to do something like this, because it's very unique, and I think people definitely seem to enjoy it for sure.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. Well, we just may end up having you on one of these days again, or maybe even fishing next to each other at one point. So I appreciated having you on and really meeting you for the first time.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I mean, we talked for an hour and 20 minutes, and I feel like I've known you for at least a couple of years.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. Well, just like you said earlier, we're a part of the same group. Like you're one of me, and in my opinion, and just like those guys are looking out for each other on Swimbait Universe and stuff like that. I would be happy to return the favor if you ever want to link up and do anything to help promote your brand.
Yeah, dude, for sure. I'll have to have you on next couple weeks. Like I said, pretty booked, but I can definitely make room for you for sure.
I'll have to put a few more swimbait fish in the boat before we do that. Probably. I definitely can't do a seminar on how to fish a glide bait.
Hey man, that's whatever. I don't discriminate against anybody. If you want to come on and even just kind of talk about what you've experienced, that's completely okay with me too. But like I said, if you want to have the fall and kind of learn something that works for you in your area, we can come break it down on an hour or two episode for sure, anytime.
Heck yeah, man. All right. Well, I appreciate it, and I'm going to take you up on that. And for all of you guys that are watching, if you're not subscribed to the Behind the Reel channel, go ahead and do that. And make sure you get over there and check out Scales and Tails on YouTube and all of the other avenues that we've previously discussed. He's everywhere.
Yeah, something like that, whether that be a good thing or not.
All right, man. Well, you have a good one.
You too, man. Thank you.
All right. We'll see you. All right, guys, that was it. Episode 57. Adrian Dean from the Scales and Tails podcast. Really cool opportunity to have a fellow podcaster on the channel and speak with them about their experiences, which apparently are very similar to my own. And I think it's just a cool opportunity for us to be able to dive into the subject that we are so passionate about with the people that are most knowledgeable about that, whether that's kayak fishing or swimbait fishing or just fishing in general. It seems like we were both kind of set out to accomplish a similar mission, which is to learn more ourselves, but also put that information out there for you guys to enjoy, for you guys to maybe be able to curb, like help with the learning curve. For the average angler, somebody that wants to learn more about whatever the subject is. And in this case, it's swimbait fishing. He's got a lot of stuff going on. It sounds like a lot of stuff in the works. And I'm confident that he is going to be successful. One more time, if you guys are interested in supporting Scales and Tails, go over to sntpodcast.com. I thought I had it pulled up here still. Yeah, I do. Let me pull it up here. For those of you guys that are watching, you can see here, sntpodcast.com. Again, some really cool designs over there. He's got some stickers, shirts, hoodies. And then if you guys are going to the Gathering 4 or just want to maybe get this really awesome design. This design is super cool. You've got a bunch of big swim baits sitting there on the top of a grill, and somebody's flipping them with a spatula. Super cool. And the colors are awesome. So if you guys are interested in showing him some support, not only go listen to his podcast, but you can actually go buy his merch as well. So guys, I want to thank you all for tuning in. If you are from the swimbait world, appreciate you for tuning in. We've got a bunch of other content for you guys to enjoy. Make sure you check out our previous podcast. And we even had 3 or 4 guys that were on our previous podcast tune in tonight and drop a comment over there in the live feed. So if you guys are listening to this later on Spotify, thank you guys. And we'll be posting more of those over on Spotify as well here shortly. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and you guys have a good one. We'll see you on the next one.